Hello traders, and welcome back to another video. In today's video is going to be quite a long one, so grab your notepad, grab tea, coffee, drink, whatever, sit back. We've got 3 of the top podcasts on our platform on YouTube in one video. So if you are looking to do FTMO, City Traders, just any prop firm out there, or you're looking to improve your trading, this is the perfect video for you. In this video we have 3 or 4 traders that are going to improve your trading from experience. These guys have all been on the podcast. These are the top performing videos, so we know that you guys enjoy these. We have made one in the past, a shorter version, but we thought it'd be really good to give you guys one video where you can learn everything you need to know about how to pass one of these challenges. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, comment below something that you've learned from this episode. Remember to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Enjoy. Welcome to TradeHappy. Welcome back to another Trader Podcast episode. Sit back, grab a notepad and pen, and take some notes. Today we've got 2 FTMO funded traders on the podcast. They give great insights on psychology and experience for aspiring FTMO traders. Please welcome Michael and T. How are you guys?
I'm good.
I'm great, mate. Thank you.
So, for anyone that doesn't know who you guys are, can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Michael. I've been trading for about 5 years now, on and off. But basically, I started with binary options, got attracted to the get-rich-quick scheme in trading. And obviously that doesn't work out. It doesn't really work like that. If you want to become successful in trading, you have to take the long way around and basically learn everything from the beginning, learn the basics. So my journey in trading has been very long, and that was due to basically it not being very structured. I sort of went in, did a little bit, went back again, did something else, and eventually, after about 3 years, I met my friend here, T, and we started trading together, and that helped both of us because I had some knowledge basically and some skills. He had amazing discipline, and then we joined together basically and ended up trading. So I'll let you tell your story as well a little bit.
Yeah, so for me, I'm T. Similar to Michael, I started off kind of attracted by the whole get-rich-quick. Originally in cryptocurrency, when sort of Bitcoin really started going up in price, thinking I could basically gamble because I didn't really have any knowledge of trading. Eventually started reading up more about it, obviously met Michael, and that's really where sort of my trading progressed. Learned some basics, really the basics, learned some strategies. We started working together, sort of combined forces. Like I say, his knowledge, sort of I had almost like the psychological approach to it as well, because I studied psychology at uni, and I feel like that helped a lot. Combining forces is what really sort of escalated our trading, and actually very quickly as well. I thought it would take years to learn, but it doesn't have to if you have the right approach.
So did you guys did you learn together, or was it one of them, maybe Michael teaching T how to trade?
I mean, I wouldn't say I taught him basically. I just showed him exactly what I did. I showed him some material I learned, and then if he had any questions, obviously he came to me and asked me. But it was more me showing him what to do, and then we essentially had a goal and a plan. And for about 6 months, we spent demo trading together, and sometimes we'd meet up together in each other's places. Other times we'd phone each other, and basically every single day without fail, we'd turn up in the markets and trade our plan. I made many mistakes along the way, but I think our biggest lessons came for both of us when we demo traded, and that's where our learning progressed the most.
It's almost like, obviously, coming into trading, I wasn't quite, we weren't quite on an even playing field. But as soon as we started working together, I caught up to Michael quite quickly, because obviously when you have someone who's more experienced than you, ultimately in any field, that's going to help you so much more than just reading books or watching courses or whatever.
Yeah. So, you guys, are you both FTMO traders, as in funded traders?
That's correct. Yeah, we both trade. I mean, again, once we started our journey with FTMO back in March, and again, everything we done was together. Every trade we took was together. Every morning we come in and we have a little conference call, if you like to call it that, and every decision we make based on every trade, it's a decision we make together. So yeah, we both funded traders. We both follow the same plan, and again, doing it together is a massive benefit for both of us, I'm guessing.
So do you have separate accounts, or is it a joint account?
Yeah, we have separate accounts. He has his own fund account. I've got my own, but then the trading is basically the exact same strategies.
Ah, right, okay. So did you take the FTMO challenge at the same time?
Yeah, everything was at the same time. Yeah, we started. I think our day was the 9th of March of this year that we took our challenge together. And as I said, everything we've done was the exact same process, just separate accounts.
Right, okay. That's interesting because a lot of traders most of them anyway, trade on their own. And it's quite original, I guess, to have traders that are doing the exact same strategy and taking the same trades together. I've not heard of that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what he said before is basically we combined forces, and he's had the psychological aspect of trading. I had the experience and the skill, if you like to call it that. And again, trading to be a very lonely game. You're on your own normally. It's you and the screen. And if you make mistakes, it's quite easy to just quit. But if you've got two of you there, you can keep each other accountable. And I find it much easier like that.
Ultimately, I find a very important sort of trait in trading is discipline. And like anywhere else, like in any other really skill or whatever you're going to approach in life. And when there's two of you, you can either, like, sometimes you might want to revenge trade or something, as an example. But when you're by yourself, it's very easy to sort of think yourself into making a bad decision. But when there's two of you, you call each other out. For example, you're going to go and open a position which you never would normally open. And you can be like, hey, we don't do this. This isn't part of our plan. You keep each other far more accountable than when you're trading by yourself, at least in my experience.
And I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you have any advice for traders that are trading on their own about how they can keep themselves accountable without having someone else do it for them?
I think it's important to practice discipline. It's very hard to do, obviously, because it's easier said than done. But I think from my experience, the best thing to do is basically at least surround yourself in groups of traders. Basically, there are plenty of forums even groups on Facebook or Instagram where you can at least speak to people. And the great thing about that is the people are on the same journey as you. So if you surround yourself with people on the same journey as you, they'll understand you. And if you post something about trying to make a mistake or something, they'll easily guide you to do a better thing, basically.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say as well is if you're by yourself, you can't ever deviate from your strategy and your plan. You have to have ice cold discipline. And it's obviously a little harder, I think, by yourself, like I say, but ultimately that's what's going to make or break you. Because if you start deviating and if you start doing things you're not supposed to do, that's where you're going to have issues. That's where you're going to start losing money. It's a very dangerous sort of path to go down. So yeah, you need to have your goal, in sight, and just follow that. And you can't be making any mistakes there.
Yeah. So if you had to start the FTMO challenge again, would you change anything? Or would you do exactly the same as you guys did? Because obviously you passed the challenge and everything. But were there aspects that you would change?
Well, actually, funny enough, we've actually applied for another challenge just to basically increase our capital a bit quicker. So we're going to start our new challenge alongside our fund account tomorrow. And we're not going to change anything, actually, because it worked out very well for us. I mean, we don't believe in luck in trading, but if there was one aspect, basically, we were quite lucky that when we did our challenge at the beginning, we essentially made our big profits when the whole coronavirus came about. So the markets were very crazy back in March, and we really capitalized on that. But having said that, we had a very structured plan on how to go about things if we'd not had that luck, basically. So if the markets are just basically normal, we will essentially, our first goal is to protect our capital, because the way it works with FTMO is if you finish a challenge and you haven't possibly passed the profit target, but you've managed to keep your risk like they ask you to do, and if you stay in profit after the 20 days of trading, which is a calendar month, you can do another challenge for free. So our plan, first of all, is to protect our capital, and then basically we follow our plan 100% because we know our strategy very well. And I think doing FTMO, you need to really know the ins and outs and all the numbers of your strategy, because you need to know how good are your good month and how bad are your bad month. So we knew there are certain months in the year sometimes that we have a slight drawdown, and we were prepared for that basically by saying, okay, if we reach a certain number of losses, we will reduce our risk. And at the same time, if we're winning, we can potentially increase our risk a little bit because we've got a bigger buffer. So ultimately,
Yeah.
we're not going to do anything different because, again, we know our plan very well. We know our strategy. And that's what makes everything easier because you can trust the process, basically.
So did you do, obviously back testing, but did you do, what I'm trying to say is, did you use any software when you were doing the back testing, or was it just trading the demo account?
Our backtesting was actually fully manual, basically. It's a painful process in many ways, but it's got to be done, in my opinion. You need to know your strategy, basically. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't know the ins and outs of it, in terms of risk management, basically, it's not going to work. So we had to basically go back 2 or 3 years and see how every year performed and how every month performed and so on. So it'll be easier with software indeed, but that's possibly going forward when we use some software to our trading, but at the moment it's all done manually.
Right, okay. So kind of going off from FTMO, what does your average day look like?
Well, average day
Or is there an average day?
yeah, I mean, well, right now it's a bit different, obviously, with our whole world pandemic. But typically we'll wake up at around 6:30 in the morning, and our trading is the first thing that happens. So we trade the European Open session. So our trading starts from 7 a.m. and usually we're done by 9. Sometimes it goes on a bit longer, but we like to be finished by 9 or 10 at least. And then basically after that, it's our own free time. We're both very passionate about the gym, so that's actually how we also became very close and work on ourselves, because we both go to the gym. So we usually gym 2-3 hours, and then again just work on self-improvement, discuss future plans, and yeah, that's about it. I think I can add to that.
Yeah, well, actually, about the gym as well. It's funny you say we met there, but I also find that it really helps my trading. I think Michael would agree.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, in the gym, it's about taking small steps every day over a very long period of time to achieve a goal. And that's essentially what trading is. Because I used to approach it almost as like, right, let's go in there, let's try and get a big win, a lot of risk like 20% on my account or something. That's how you blow up. Same thing in the gym. You have to take small steps every single day, and eventually you'll achieve your goals.
That's right. It's like laying that one brick until you basically build that whole house, if you like. It takes one step at a time. And again, that's how we, at the gym, we keep each other accountable. We help each other at the gym, and we do that in the trading as well. So
yeah, that's pretty good. With the psychology of applying the gym to the trading and taking those small steps. So can you describe your strategy in one sentence or 2 sentences? Just for anyone that wants to get an overview of what you guys do.
Well, our approach to trading is basically, we like to keep it simple. We trade the European Open session, so we're in the UK and Scotland. So at 7 a.m. in the morning, the markets tend to move a bit more than from overnight session in Asia. So we trade 2 markets only. We stick to that because, again, keeps things simpler. We trade one currency pair, the GBP USD, and we trade the DAX index. And basically on the GBP USD, we look for breakouts. We've seen a pattern basically that overnight the price action seems to be very quiet during the Asian session. So we look for sort of like London Open breakouts, we could call it, but it's some kind of our own variation of it basically. And then the DAX seems to be quite an aggressive market sometimes, which we quite like. So we essentially look at previous day's levels, we look at the highs and lows of the previous day, and we look at the gap, and then we either decide to fill the gap or ride the gap, if you like, depending on the price action on that day.
Okay, cool. So I guess you kind of touched on it. What I was going to ask next was, what does your typical trade look like? Do you have like a set stop loss and take profit, or is it something that's a bit more fluid?
Yeah, well, usually our stop loss, for example, will be most recent high, most recent low, or perhaps a strong level of structure. We determine our position size based on the distance of our stop loss. And then our target, again, it could either be a previous level, or sometimes it's a fixed ratio of at least 1-to-1 reward to risk. And basically, with our approach is we don't overtrade, so the way our strategy works, we can only place a maximum of 3 trades. Sometimes we finish the day with 1 and done, which is fantastic. Other days we have 2. And then there are some cases if we, for example, lose one of the trades, we have a second chance entry basically. And yeah, we place a maximum of 3 trades in a day. And again, most of our trading actually in the morning is literally sitting on our hands and waiting for either a setup or sitting on our hands and waiting to manage our risk. To basically, once we reach a certain level of profit, we, for example, reduce our risk to break even, and that's how we approach it.
Right, yeah. Okay. So how long did it take to develop that strategy?
Well, it's quite a bit of a long story because when we first met, we were kind of more into trading stocks. We had an approach to trading stocks basically where once again we just trade the open. So at 2:30 UK time, the New York stock market opens, which is obviously 9:30 in New York, and we essentially we love the momentum and the volume and the volatility of the open in New York. However, we found that with FTMO, basically the way we want to trade stocks is we're not really able to do that with FTMO because the brokers they offer don't really offer that kind of trading, which is fair enough. It's quite you could call it a bit higher risk because again the volatility and that. So we can't trade that way with FTMO, even though you can trade stocks overall, but not the way we wanted to. So then I sort of had to basically go back to my Forex sort of strategies I used to trade back in the day when I first started. Because once again, all my trading life, I wanted to basically trade very simply, trading the open, just placing 1 or 2 trades per day. And I had developed a strategy sort of over, again, the London Open session basically. And it didn't take that long to develop it really. Just the hardest part of it all was actually the risk management. Because any strategy can work really if you have sound risk management in place. My biggest mistake back in the day was that I would trade the same way I trade now. However, I have much worse risk management. That, for example, I'd always take my profits early and I'd let my losers run. Whereas now, especially having 2 of us, we just always decide, no, we're sticking to the plan, at least 1-to-1 reward to risk. And basically, yeah, so to answer your question, it didn't take that long to develop a strategy, but it took quite long to basically practice trading it, if you like, because even though we didn't fully practice this specific strategy, we had a lot of experience from trading stocks on demo accounts. So it was more about taking the time to basically master trading it rather than developing it.
It was also a bit of a readjustment period because the way we traded stocks, we were influenced quite a lot by quite a well-known YouTuber, Andrew Aziz from Beer Bull Traders, and his methods. So it's a very sort of quite a high risk, not so much of a high risk, but it's a very sort of high frequency style of trading. You can be doing a lot more than 3 trades in a single session. You can you trade extremely high volatility, obviously markets, because you're looking for big moves. Whereas this is sort of it's a lot slower. Obviously, it takes way longer because we would probably trade stocks for what, Michael, probably about up to half an hour.
That's right, yeah.
Whereas right now, we could be trading until well, usually it's about 10. So it's a very different approach to trading, but also was quite novel to sort of experience that, because going from stocks to the Forex market and also the DAX, it was an interesting transition to make, and also a good learning experience.
Yeah. Is the psychology different, have you found, trading in that short period of time? Because obviously I can imagine that there's a lot of new traders that are going to want to overtrade in that small period because they think after that period's done they're not going to be able to trade.
I mean, I think that depends on the individual, because I mean, for example, I can't swing trade personally because I'm not a fan of waiting, for example, only for 1 or 2 setups per week. For me, I have to have at least 1 trade per day, but I also don't want to overtrade, so I only want to do 1 or 2. It's a bit strange how that works. I think it depends on the individual, how risk tolerant you are, and I know overtrading can be it is one of the main problems of people that trade, but that's, again, I just think it depends on the individual.
Right, yeah, okay. And do you guys use any fundamentals when you trade? Even though it's quite short term, do you have like an overall fundamental guide?
No, we don't actually know. We again, the way we used to trade stocks, we would only basically look for stocks that have had some either earnings or uh, mergers or something like that. But with our strategy in Forex and then with the DAX, we just basically it's all to do with price action basically and technical analysis. There's the only thing that affects us with fundamentals is with FTMO. If there's any major news released, we are not allowed to open trades 2 minutes before, 2 minutes after the news has been released. But so far we found that it's not affecting us at all. And again, for us, the way we look at news, like we wouldn't, if it's good news, doesn't mean the stock's going to go up or something, or the price is going to go up. The good thing about news is we know that when there is news, it typically means that the price will move quite aggressively, if you like. So I think, yeah, we don't really take into account what the news is, and essentially with trading Forex and DAX, we don't look at fundamentals at all.
Right. And being quite short-term traders in terms of trading every single day, do you use algos? Is that something that you've had a look at or considering to do in the future?
No, we haven't. We don't use them at all just now. No, I mean, it's possibly we are thinking about going forward to automating one of our strategies, simply because it is sometimes painful just sitting there for 3 or 4 hours and no setup happening. So one of our strategies we'll most likely look to automate at some point, but at the moment, no.
Also, it just shows that if you do have a very simple sort of binary strategy, and you're not able to code it, or you don't know how to, or you don't want to, you don't need to, you can just obviously sit there and wait, and that's an approach. You don't. Some people obviously will have that knowledge, or will pay someone to automate them, but it's not a necessity, obviously.
Yeah, I suppose if it's a really simple strategy that you can code, it takes the emotion out of it as well, doesn't it? Especially for newer traders or struggling traders, it could be quite good to do.
Of course, yeah.
So what was I guess this is for both of you guys as well, what was the most difficult process of becoming profitable for you?
I think for me was basically...
Or was there anything?
For me was basically the fact that I couldn't get to grips. I basically spent too much time looking for the holy grail. I was looking for a strategy that would return me 20 to 40% a month. And that was mainly because I was always looking from the approach that I will start trading with maybe 1,000 to 3,000 pounds only, obviously a small account. So I was trying to get those massive gains because I was somehow trying to get my account to grow quickly. So my biggest process was basically shifting from that to actually then realizing that no, it's actually much better to trade with, say, 50,000 to 100,000 pounds and quote unquote only making 3 to 5%, which is obviously much more realistic, much more achievable. And it's, again, trading is a business where it's not about the more time you put in. It's the more money you have, the more money you can receive by the same amount of return. It's a game of percentages. It's not about a fixed amount of pips or a fixed amount of pounds per day. It's a game of percentages. So for me, the biggest problem was basically trying to shift my mind from trying to find the holy grail and return massive amounts to actually realize that it's better to have more money and make smaller returns and basically trade with lower risk, essentially.
Right, yeah. So, did you struggle with anything?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing was, obviously, before I met Michael, I was just doing silly things, jumping to strategies and jumping markets and not really having a direction. But ultimately, two things I realized is, one is accepting that you're going to be wrong. So for a lot of people, they'll go into a position, they'll open a trade, and it'll go against them, and they'll think, actually, you know what? No, it'll come back. And that is a very, very dangerous mindset because, okay, it might come back, but how much you're going to lose? How you might get margin called at some point. So you might be saying, I'm going to risk 1%, and then you don't have a concrete stop loss, and it drops below or above that level, and it keeps dropping or keeps going against you. And where's that going to take you? What's the loss you're going to eventually have to sort of accept? Is it going to be 10%, 15%? And also risk management. So I realized that a huge part of trading is risk management, because if you don't have a concrete plan, it's a very dangerous approach, because ultimately when we first started trading stocks, so we were profitable, not as profitable as we are now, but we also didn't quite have our risk management in place. It was a bit like we knew we had a plan, but we didn't always stick to it. We'd sometimes risk too much. We'd sort of put our stop losses at quite arbitrary levels. Whereas when we moved to FTMO, I think the fact that, there's going from demo to real money, there's money on the line, and it sort of forced us to really be very, very black and white with our risk management, to not make those mistakes that we were making trading stocks.
Yeah, I'd like to actually add to that. Basically, it's a case of we used to focus on how much we can make, rather how much we can lose. And every time now, we basically look how much are we risking. That's the first question. We don't care how much we can make. Our first question is how much we can lose. And I think for both of us, that was the biggest shift and our biggest progress was made, because essentially, if you only focus on how much you can make, you'll make mistakes along the way because you're just going to try and make that money. Whereas if your first thing to solve is how much you can lose, I think that will take your trading a bit further.
Yeah, so kind of going on from that, you mentioned that trading like a small account, you have the kind of mentality of you need that big gain. Do you think that if someone's not profitable on a small account, they can be profitable on a larger account because they don't need to make that, well, quote unquote, big amount of money?
I think so. In my case, that's been the case, to be honest with you, because I've traded a few small accounts in the past, and it's also a case of back then I had not the same experience, and also with us, we had FTMO with a big account. So basically, because FTMO was such a big end goal for us, that we knew that if we pass it, basically, it's a life-changing amount of money to be trading with, basically. But with a small account, it's almost easier to risk more, because if you have a trade open and let's say you have £1,000 and you're risking 2%, it's £20 in the line. Whereas if you're trading with £100,000, 2% is £2,000. So you're a lot less likely to accept that big loss with a bigger amount, because it's a bit psychologically, it's a bit more difficult to deal with a bigger number. I think that if you can't trade a small account, it's all about psychology. Essentially, it's how do I put this? Basically, I was never really profitable on a small account, but going to a big account, I found it easier to trade with. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
I would agree, because if you're in a trade with £1,000 and you're up, say, I don't know, 2 or 3% on our kind of trading style, so it's a very sort of quite short term trading, that's 30 quid. That ultimately, that's not a lot of money, and you can, and we did this. You forget that that's actually 3%. So if you had 100,000, you're looking at £3,000. That's a lot of money. So it scales very quickly. So I would say, trading with a large account is easier as long as you stick to the plan. Because if you don't, it's also a lot more destructive. Because if you lose 10% off of £1,000, that's not really that big of a deal. Let's be honest, it's 100 quid, right? But if you're losing 10% off of $500,000, well, then you've got bigger issues.
Yes. And do you think that, so if someone isn't profitable on that small account, what do you think they need to do to become profitable on a larger account? Because obviously that's quite a big jump to go from not profitable with a small amount of money to being profitable with a large amount of money. I'm not sure what kind of psychology you might need, or I'm not really sure.
I think it's important to basically disconnect yourself from the money, and again, stop thinking in terms of amount of pounds or pips. Just think of in terms of percentages. If you're making, for example, 5 to 10% on £2,000, that's still in percentages. It's not a lot of return in pounds. But again, you have to think about the percentage. Stop thinking about the pound value, if you like, because again, in trading, it's about percentages. And essentially, I think the most important thing would be to basically disconnect yourself from the money and think in terms of percentages. That's my opinion.
Also, you have to take a step back and think, why aren't you profitable on that small account? What variable is it that's stopping you from achieving that? So if you have, for example, a strategy that you've back tested and that has a high 70% chance of ending you on a positive month, well, then it's either you're just having a bad month, or your execution is flawed. You're taking your wins too early. You're not disconnecting yourself from losses. So ultimately, if you do have that strategy that has a very high chance of probability, scaling up shouldn't really be a problem as long as everything else is nailed down.
Yeah.
I think I would like to add to that.
Uh,
Basically, it's also if you're demo trading or trading in real life, it's I think our biggest shift in success happened when we started logging our trades. And essentially, what happened was we realized that every time we lost money, it was either simply because that day was an unprofitable day, or more often than not, we found that it was due to us not following our plan. So I think when you actually log every single trade, open a spreadsheet, whatever, and log your trade, entry, exit, and then write a little comment, and basically every time you see that you lost money, and if there was, if you violated your rules, that just shows that sometimes you lose money not because of strategy, but because your own little mistake, basically.
I will agree to that.
Yeah.
Well, when we started logging our trades, back when we were trading stocks, our sort of whole mentality and actual profit levels changed completely. We sort of started approaching it in a much more professional manner, and because ultimately it's a case of you don't want to have that mess up on your log. It looks bad, you know. If you feel accountable for your trades, you're not going to want to have these huge losses and write, oh, you know, I revenge trade pretty much. You just have to be honest with yourself ultimately.
Yeah. And so, do you use any software to do that journaling, or is it something that you just do, maybe in Excel or something like that?
Well, right now, luckily for us, basically FTMO, like all the trades are being logged there. So for myself, I basically at the end of every month, I just essentially take a screenshot of all the trades I've taken and put them into just save a photo basically. But before FTMO, we essentially just did a spreadsheet of it, entered the stock we traded, basically time we entered, sort of direction, and followed by a little comment saying what went right, what went wrong.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, if you have been journaling for quite a long time, is there one trade that stands out that you can remember for a good or bad reason?
Well, actually, I think I would say we've actually had a trade a few days ago that stands out to us because the way we trade, this is only going for the DAX. DAX, the way we trade, we essentially trail our take profit, depending on the momentum of the market, the trend, and everything. So the target profit, the actual target of the level, was rather huge. And we know when the target is rather huge, the market doesn't typically go that low or high for that matter. So on that specific day, we were essentially up over 4%. And because our strategy said to us, well, it can keep going, we essentially didn't take that money. We just reduced our risk to the full capacity. And I mean, in the end, we ended up being stopped out for break even. And we weren't really that mad because we followed our plan. But at the same time, we left a lot of money on the table. So
Yeah.
you have to sometimes realize that a losing trade is not a bad trade as long as you follow the plan. And in that case, okay, it was a lot of money to leave on the table, but at the same time, there's nothing else we could have done because our plan said to stay basically, and that's essentially that trade stands out to us because it hurt for a little bit. It's a lot of money, especially for us. We're rather, you could call it the new professionals if you like, but at the same time, we know that this is our plan, and essentially, it was a good trade.
You have to look at the bigger picture ultimately. It's one trade. Yeah, it's annoying. Obviously, the potential of that trade was, I think, almost double that. It was about $4,000. You know, you're going to have those days where it just doesn't go according fully to plan. But all you can do is you can look back and say, yeah, I stuck to the plan. I did what I could. I didn't make any mistakes there. And ultimately, the market just wasn't cooperating that day. And you have to accept that. That's a part of trading.
Yeah. Do you think, in terms of, because obviously you've guided each other through trading, has there been anyone else inside or outside of trading that you guys have learnt from or that you look up to?
I mean, I personally look up to a lot of people. I've been sort of, well, I can call them my mentors because, I mean, even though they haven't physically taught me really, but it's essentially, trading is a game where, well, actually, if you want to find success in anything, just basically find the best people in that business and follow them. So in my case, well, we mentioned Andrew Aziz from Bearable Traders, and he's kind of the stock market side of things, and we just love the way he trades. In my case, also, I followed Jason Grayson for a long time. I just think he's not only a great Forex coach, but he also has tons of free advice on wealth mindset, basically, and that sort of thing. So he's a great person to follow as well, in my opinion. And again, I was Etching Crest Desire to Trade podcast. I've listened to that for years as well now. So essentially just basically finding the best people in the business and following them.
Yeah. Okay. And T, did you have anyone that you look up to?
Well, for myself, it's really just people that Michael has shown me as well. Like I said, Andrews is Etienne. He's great. As is Jason Greystone and his advice. We also follow a guy called Zed Monopoly on YouTube. Actually, he has a pretty good, actually a decent course on trading, sort of as a beginner. Again, focusing more on stocks, but just for myself, it was also more about learning the mindset from him of that sort of stone cold discipline and not ultimately not being too greedy as well, which sometimes it's hard. Obviously, if you're up in a winning trade, to leave money on the table, it's. So yeah, I'd say Zed as well. He was someone just who, again, not quite the trading style that we subscribe to now, but it was more the psychology side of things for me, learning from him.
Yeah, I would agree. The psychology from Zed was, definitely. His approach basically just stone cold emotion, as T said, and that's another person I forgot to mention as well. We actually follow them. There's a channel on YouTube called UK Spread Betting, and there's a guy called Mark. He runs that channel, seems to be, and he has a lot of great advice as well. So really, just people that are, again, have a good reputation in the business and essentially don't try to sell you dreams, but rather a proper way to learn things, and that's about it. Yeah.
So have you guys done any courses in terms of psychology or technical analysis?
I've personally done courses in trading myself. Like, I've taken a few Forex courses in the past. But psychology-wise, we just essentially, well, again, T has a background in psychology, so it's a lot of things basically we took from the gym as well. We compare a lot of the things to just normal life, essentially. It's like, so psychology-wise, we don't have to take any courses because I think in that area right now we're quite solid. So
yeah, I was going to say, in terms of what you guys have been talking about, the mentality seems to be what makes you guys profitable. What would you say is the thing that makes you profitable?
I think, what you said there, mentality is one thing, because again, we went from essentially crying about every single loss we took to now being basically stone cold with the emotions. Like, we will lose, it has no effect on our day at all. We win is the same case. It's essentially it's when you really disconnect yourself from that win or loss, and if you follow the plan, there's nothing else you could have done. It's almost like there's like a little flow chart, if you like. It's, do you have a problem? If the answer is yes, can you change it? No, then don't worry. Yes, you can change it. No, don't worry. And if you have a problem, you can't, and you don't have a problem, well, then don't worry either. So it's basically just a very simple approach to just don't let the trading get the better of you. Basically, just disconnect yourself from it.
I agree with that. Mentality is, at least in my opinion, probably the most important thing in this business. Obviously, you need a strategy. You need to have a profitable strategy. But that being said, there are so many strategies you can follow that will make you money. It's a case of, will you stick to it? And ultimately, will you stick to it when it's a losing month, or say a losing 3 months even? Because that's possible. And how you deal with that in your own mind is ultimately what it comes down to. It's everything, everything stems from the mind. So if you've got that nailed down, then you probably won't have any issues.
Absolutely.
So how long did it take you guys to develop that kind of mindset? Because obviously it doesn't seem like it's something that, I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like something that can just be switched on and off for someone that hasn't had the training, I guess you could say, or the experience of doing that.
Well, I would say a lot of practice. We started working like seriously on trading together in September, was it?
September last year.
And well, ever since then, it took our first 3-4 months. We didn't have that mindset. We sort of knew what we were getting at. We were kind of on the right track, but we certainly weren't there. Ultimately we really got it when we started with FTMO, because then you're accountable. Then you can't make those mess ups. Everything has to be, going according to plan. So I mean, it took And obviously, if you look at the bigger picture as well, from when we both started our journeys in trading, it's a few years. So it can take a while, but you really just have to practice and practice, and again, learn from the best. It's really hard to learn these things yourself. Or obviously, both of us were helped by people on YouTube, and and books that were written on trading. So
I would agree with that. I mean, essentially, basically, what was for us, it's almost a case of our backs were against the wall, and we kind of had an option to either you stick to 100% or it's gonna take too long. So we knew that FTMO was a life-changing opportunity for us. So we basically had to take our team to the next level because, again, the end goal was so big that if we failed it, then it's almost knocks back your confidence.
Yeah.
And also, speaking about the solid mindset, when we've met, we sort of clicked the right away because we seem to have the same vision. And basically, again, going back to the gym, we are the gym, and we always analyzed our performance in the gym. And almost the same way, it's like basically practicing the same thing every single day, and you will become good at it at some point. It's just no way around it because that's how life works, really.
Yeah.
it's about every day, turning up and can build a house. You lay a brick one by one. You don't just build a house in a day. It takes a long, long time.
Yeah. So obviously you guys are quite short-term traders, and you've successful with FTMO. Do you think that swing traders or longer-term traders can be profitable with FTMO? Because I know that they've got some rules, haven't they, around trading?
I think if you're a longer-term trader, I think, again, it goes back to what I said before about really knowing your strategy. And I'm sure they let you open trades overnight. I don't think they let you open trades over the weekend. Again, I'm not 100% sure because that's not the way we trade. But you can still swing trade as long as you know your strategy very well and as long as you have enough setups. The reason we like short-term trading basically is because, for example, a trend on the daily chart will take, say, a week or two to form, whereas on a 5-minute chart, you have many intraday trends, and there's like just basically a lot more opportunity to trade. But going back to the question, I think swing traders can easily pass the challenge, but I think it again comes down to really knowing your strategy and knowing your numbers and preparing for the worst, and again, just be very prepared.
Yeah. And the kind of final question here is, what would you say is the number one piece of advice for anyone looking to do FTMO?
Well, I think my opinion is, well, you obviously have to know to trade. You need to have some experience under your belt. That's why they sort of have a fee, because they don't just want people randomly trading and basically making some money out of luck. You need to be decent with your trading, and I really think FTMO, even if you fail the challenge, it will still make you a better trader because you really nail down your risk management. And I think a lot of people have said that, like reading other people's testimonials, it seemed that FTMO has at least improved their trading in terms of risk management and basically emotional control. But number one, advice is basically just know your strategy very well and just remember to stick to the plan.
Okay, cool. And T, do you have any psychology tips for people looking to do FTMO?
I completely agree with what Michael said again. So to begin, obviously, have that strategy. Make sure you've backtested it. Know the statistics. Know the potential success rate. And then from a sort of psychology perspective, is stick to the plan. You can't have emotions here. You need to be incredibly black and white in your trades. You need to have, you can't be chasing. If you have a certain target for a win, take that money. Don't think, oh, it'll keep going. Well, okay, what happens if you leave that trade open and it doesn't, and it drops back down, it stops you out? Just stick to the plan. You have to have that stone cold discipline. And for me and for Michael as well, I think that's really what made us pass the challenge and is making us more successful traders every day.
I would 100% agree.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say, basically, also understand that the challenge is probably the most difficult part of it, because that's where you actually have the biggest profit target. So this is the most difficult part. But then remember how, like in our case, we knew that the opportunity was massive. For in our case, life-changing to an extent. So just remember how the end goal is really, it's a huge opportunity. So the challenge is the hardest part. So you might have to make some tweaks for the challenge if your strategy hasn't been really returning as much an amount. But then, for example, the second stage, you have twice as long, and the target is, well, it's half the target basically. And then once you're a trader with them, then there is no target at all. So it's the challenge is the hardest part. And if you can prepare well for that, then if you can prepare well for that, then you can go really far with it.
And also from a mindset perspective is never give up, because you don't know if you're going to have a bad month in the market. It's like, your strategy could have like a 80% chance of either making you 10-15% a month, whatever it is. And say you fail, you lose 5% in the month. Try again. You just had a bad month. Never give up. Well, and it's the same if you're funded as well. If you're going through a hard time, if you're not making money that month, that's fine. Look at the bigger picture. You can't make money every month. Ultimately, I'm sure some people probably do it, but it's hard. It's really difficult. So you just have to have resilience around you, and accept that you're not always gonna make money, but don't let that bring you down.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to add? And also, where can people find you?
I don't have anything in particular to add. I mean, I can easily send my Instagram link to yourself if you'd like to potentially put it below the description or something.
Yeah,
that's really the only way. We've been both quite private about our journey. We haven't really been until that post I made on Etienne's group about the funding and everything. I haven't really said anything because we both quite like to be private. But again, if people need any help at all, I'm very happy to help on my Instagram. So I'll send you a link to that.
I'll do the same as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks guys for getting on the podcast with me today. Yeah, cheers.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having us. Cheers for that.
Thank you, Jacob.
Welcome to TradeHappy. Welcome back to another Traders Podcast episode. Sit back, grab a notepad and pen and take some notes, because this is going to be a good one. Today we have a trader who's an FTMO funded trader, and he bases most of his decisions from the fundamental analysis that he does. He's also trading FTMO whilst learning law at college. Please welcome Matt Smith. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Matt. I've been a trader now for about 4 years. I started in my junior year of college, and basically kind of self-taught through different learning systems that I came across. So, through reading and watching YouTube videos, reading different people's courses, things like that. I kind of just went through the whole gambit, and that's how I kind of taught myself. I have a background in philosophy. So in university, I studied philosophy. I studied a lot of legal philosophy as well as a little bit of business. So that's kind of how I got into the business side that introduced me to Forex in the first place. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that I left out?
Well, you're an FTMO trader, aren't you?
Yes.
So when did you find out about FTMO?
So it's only been about a month and a half now. So it was pretty recently. I had originally started or tried to complete the challenge and all that stuff in January, but then that's when kind of COVID happened, and there was just a lot of stuff going on, not just in the market. Obviously, the markets were a little crazy around that time, or started to be crazy around that time, but just things personally. So I kind of just took a step back from trading FTMO and just kind of doing analysis, reading, trying to understand what was going on in the broader economic scope, try to really grasp that, and also, kind of wrestle the personal issues, because I'm sure if you're not personally in a good place, it's going to come out in the trading. So you got to always make sure that you're, in a place that you want to be, where you're happy before you're putting your attitude to the charts.
Yeah. And did you have to change your strategy at all to fit with the FTMO challenge?
Yes and no. So, like I was saying before, I've gone through different courses. Let's say they're not like formal courses or anything like that, but just different mentors, let's call them, that teach different styles of trading. And so I think up until let's say last year, December, I was familiar with a lot of different trading methods. So whether it's long-term swings or just like short scalps, I knew a bunch of different methods. And I think I was transitioning to being leaning more towards swing trading. Once I started to get a certain understanding of the economy and of markets. And then I think the rules of FTMO kind of forced me to alter that a little bit, because, you can't hold things over the weekend, things like that, the various rules. And just dealing with stuff like the swap increasing, the spread increasing at such and changeover. I don't know if you're trading at that time, but that happens a lot. Things like swap. So it did require me to change a little bit. But I think that my overall look on the market, how I'm analyzing, how I'm planning trades and things like that are pretty much the same. I'm just getting in and out of the market more often, just because of that,
Right.
weekend rule.
Yeah. So can you briefly describe your strategy?
Yeah. So including kind of like chart back testing or research.
Yeah. So what's your strategy for actually trading the markets?
Yeah. So before I actually decide what pairs I'm going to look at, I try to get an overview of the fundamental drivers, because I think a lot of traders miss that piece. And while I don't think you necessarily need to have a great understanding of that to be successful, I think it really helps, at least for the way that I think about the market. So I try to look for, okay, this week or this month, whatever political, economic time frame that we're in, or climate that we're in. So right now I'd be looking more like week to week instead of month to month, just because everything's very shaky. Different countries are making different decisions, sometimes quickly, sometimes drawn out. So because there's so much uncertainty, I'm going to be looking like more week to week. So for this next week, I haven't done my kind of research for the week yet, but what I'll be looking at is things like manufacturing numbers, interest rates, any like changes or any news or announcements around things like that. And then based on kind of what I see out there, I'll say, like, for example, if I see that GBP has a strong reason to continue falling, which I think it does. I haven't done my research yet, but I think it does. So I'll look at GBP, and I'll try to find within the GBP cross pairs which are the best opportunities for me to get in sells. So I'll kind of then just transition from a fundamental point of view to then looking at technicals. So I'm saying, all right, well, I already know that I'm looking for more downward movement on these pairs. So now I'll just do kind of my markups, my technical analysis, and highlight areas that would be good to enter shorts. Then, assuming I don't have a million zones and a million horizontal lines everywhere, I'll shorten that down to a couple key areas, and then I'll just kind of wait, and I'll see what happens when price gets to those different areas, and I'll decide to take my trade on whatever day or whatever time it gets there.
So what do you use to actually get those fundamentals? Is it just like a free website, or do you pay for something?
Yeah, so nothing is paid for. I do pay for a sort of group that I'm in, and there's some news that guy sends, simply because he does market research for an actual institute, so he shares some like a particular point of view that he has, just based on experience. So I do pay for that, but the other websites that I use are all free. So I use something called FinViz, FINVIZ, and that just gives me an idea of, if I need this, ads start popping up. So I use that for an idea of the indexes, so like dollar index, euro index, GBP index, stuff like that. And that will be like just one confluence, let's say, for how I'm determining my my bias for the pairs. So I'll just kind of look at that and see what forecasts are, see what the different types of traders in the market are doing. I also use trading economics, market economics. So those are the main websites that I use. And then outside of that, it's just kind of research on news that's out there. So I'll read The Economist. I think The Economist is pretty good for kind of high level views of where things are heading. The Economist, I think, has a very nice, fairly unbiased way of presenting what's going on. So I think it makes it a lot better to make an unbiased decision yourself, because we got to remember that we need to be unbiased in the market. So I'll read that, and then, I'll get an idea of like, oh, China's doing this, Japan's doing this, US is doing this, whatever. And then I'll go like on local websites. So websites that are local to whatever country. So whether it's like Business Insider or Bloomberg, and then going on Reddit and trying to find articles from different countries. I'll do that too. Just anything that I can kind of get my hands on that I know is not going to be, or that is trustworthy information, basically.
Right, yeah. So you mentioned that you combine the fundamentals with the technicals.
Right.
Do you use like any indicators for your technicals, or what kind of things are you looking for?
I mean, honestly, not really. The most I'll use is moving averages. And that's only for like entries within my key levels. I don't even like use the moving averages on higher time frames, like daily or weekly. So I'll do my analysis, just regular analysis based on weekly, daily, 4 hour. Mm-hmm. And then assuming price gets to somewhere that's interesting to me, maybe I'll go down and I'll just use my EMAs and try to see if that can give me some precision. But honestly, like even sometimes with that, I don't use that. Like, if you've been trading for a decent amount of time and you have a pattern that you look for, or whatever you want to call it, just something that you notice, whether it's a time of the week or time of the day that you always enter, or a specific candle pattern, like whatever it is, like after you're doing it so many times, you kind of know what you want. So certain things just look good to you. So I try not to rely on indicators as much.
And do you think that traders need to put in that time to the charts to learn those things and those patterns?
It's a good question. Honestly, I think it depends on what type of trader you want to be. Because if you're going to be a trader that's holding things for a week or for a month, or I shouldn't say a week, maybe 2-3 weeks or multiple months, you don't necessarily need to know like analysis super well. You can get away with some pretty basic support and resistance. Now you might need to use a really wide stop loss or no stop loss. But let's say that you're just basing things off of fundamentals or just basing things off of interest rates. That's a strategy that works for you over a longer time frame. You don't necessarily need to put in time to learn chart work, to learn precision with like candles, any theory of price action. But it's like an art on its own almost. I guess I could make an analogy like you could be a doctor, but you don't necessarily need to specialize in the art of surgery, right? Like you can be a doctor for other things and have a good idea of fitness and the human body and things like that, but you don't necessarily need to be really great at surgery to be a good doctor. So no, I wouldn't say it's always like really necessary. It just depends on what you're trying to do in the market.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So during your FTMO challenge, is there anything that stood out to you that you were doing well?
Honestly, I would say that it helps to go for a lot in a little bit of time, if that makes sense. So if you know that like it's really good to capitalize on a big move. Like if you're unsure about something, or it's not quite exactly what you want, it doesn't quite exactly meet your requirements, and let's say you lower your risk a little bit, that's fine, right? Because you don't feel comfortable, whatever. So I would say that I did a really good job of, when I was feeling comfortable and confident in the setup, to just kind of go for it and not shy away from like a typical risk size or even adding more risk, simply because I knew that there was like kind of something else on the line other than money, if that makes sense. And I think that was really helpful, because if you get, let's say, a $4,000 or $5,000 day, mean, that's half of your challenge right there, and then it sets you up in such a good position for the rest of it. Because now you can lower your risk size no matter what and be kind of a little bit more conservative, and you'll probably still be okay, assuming you're still making equally good decisions. So I feel like not being afraid just because of the fact that it has like this challenge aspect to it. So there's like an additional component of failure. Like usually when you're trading, it's either you win or you lose the trade. But now it's like, oh, either I win or I lose the trade, and I could lose the challenge. So I feel like if you kind of just separate from that and stick to your normal pattern of trading or your normal routine, it makes it a lot better, because that's kind of the goal after all, right? Is to get more familiar with things that make you uncomfortable and make them more comfortable. So
yeah. So do you think that someone that might be losing on a smaller account, once they actually go to FTMO, do you think that they could possibly be profitable because they have that larger account?
if they're losing on a smaller account and then they have a bigger account,
yeah,
maybe. It depends what the reason is that they're losing, right? If they're losing because they set a 20 pip stop loss and they just get knocked out of the market or the move every time and then it goes their way, yeah, maybe more capital would help, because it would allow them to use a small lot size and widen the stop loss to somewhere that makes more sense or gives them more room to work with and can allow them to stay in the trade. So like, yeah, that's definitely something that could be fixed by having a larger amount of capital. I would also say that having a larger amount of capital gives you more confidence, and confidence is such an important part of trading. But it also opens up the avenue for bigger losses too. So that is definitely one thing to be wary of. But yeah, like I said, I think it just depends on what the mistakes are. Like if you're, for example, someone who's losing consistently because you're just over leveraging or failing to take profit, or I don't know, just doing kind of ridiculous things in the market, I don't think that's because you're working with a little amount of money. I think it's because you don't know what you're doing, or there's something else that's affecting you that's spilling over into your trading, or there's something else there. So I think that in most cases, if you're making like bad decisions with a small amount of money, it's not going to be any better with more amount of money. So yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for traders looking to do FTMO from your experience?
Yeah, I would say don't rush. There's like really no rush at all. Like, I would say the biggest mistake that people make is that, I don't know, maybe they only have a year of trading or 2 years of trading, and they think that they have like a good understanding of technicals or fundamentals or just their strategy, whatever the case is. And so they're like, yeah, I've been doing fairly good, so maybe if I go for this big amount of money, it'll make a big difference and things like that. But I think you gotta always give things a little bit of time, because I think over time you realize that like the fear of missing out, or FOMO, that kind of goes away the longer you trade, because you realize that even if you miss the 400 pip move candle, like 1 hour candle today, like there's gonna be another day where not necessarily that happens, but there's gonna be another day where there's a big move that you're gonna catch. Like, and I think that's a really big hurdle to get over in trading, because I think a lot of times, even in my own experience, I used to do this a lot early on. I would maybe get in a trade, it would go, let's say 100 pips, I'd be very happy with that, and I close, and then I would be really upset when I see it continue for 200-300 more pips. And then maybe the next time I try to go and hold that 100 pip trade with maybe a generous stop loss and profit, and I try to go for that extra 200 or 300, and then it just doesn't work out when I do it. But then every time I, take profit, it seems to go the opposite way. I think like that could be a very limiting, like cycle of a mindset to get stuck in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna have you conflicted with yourself. So
Yeah,
I think the time is like a really important factor in terms of learning lessons like that, and others. I think that was maybe more personal to me, but I think that lesson in others is something that you only get with time. So I would say don't rush. Like if you're winning like every trade that you take for 2 months, like I would still say give it some time and like try to make yourself go through more ups and downs, because I feel like if you're able to go through those ups and downs and like I guess observe your emotions and figure out how to handle them, then if let's say your drawdown is negative 30 and you had such and such emotion and you were able to battle it and win, and maybe you took the loss and you grew from it and you rebuilt the account, or maybe you just held the drawdown and it ended up going your way, like whatever you learned from it, when the case is you're in 30,000 drawdown or 3 million drawdown, it will be kind of the same. You'll just be like, oh, it's extra zeros. It's not, like I've been here before. I've been in this predicament where I've been down X percentage or whatever, and it felt really bad, but I know how to react in the situation. So I just feel like the more things you expose yourself to in the market, the better a trader you'll be over time.
Yeah. And do you think that traders need to trade an actual live account before doing FTMO, or do you think they could go straight from a demo to a live account?
I don't know. I think that's just going to be like person to person. It's such an individual thing. I mean, I think it goes back again to like your ability to manage the emotions. If having a real account is going to change your emotions a lot, when you make the transition, then yeah, it's definitely going to be hard. I mean, but if you're going to make it work, you got to get over it. So it's hard to make it feel like it's a real account when you know it isn't. But I mean, I think it's doable. I mean, anything's doable. I think as long as you kind of make up your mind about what you want to do with your trading and you kind of stick to that, I think that is a key, because like I was saying before, you don't want to be in a situation where you're internally like battling with yourself because of past experience or past trade or whatever the case is that's making you feel that way, because it kind of just makes like there's so much uncertainty in Forex that the last thing that you want to add to that pile of uncertainty is your own individual uncertainty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So during your FTMO challenge, was there one trade that stood out to you in a good or bad reason?
Good or a bad trade? Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. Let's see, what was this? I think it was in February or March. I had a trade on Euro JPY that essentially won the challenge for me. It was really, it was a weird trade for me because, so it was a trade where basically I caught the initial move, there was a pullback, and then I added more to the pullback. And the second move off of that initial impulse was like 280 pips like by the next day when I woke up. And the re-entry that I added, so normally I would just go in with like a standard, maybe like 1.5 or 2, but for whatever reason I just went in with 5 lots, and I really don't, I like it was kind of silly honestly thinking back, but I'm glad I did it, of course. But yeah, I guess that was one that stuck out to me because I achieved my goal. I didn't really have to do anything spectacular, and I think it was one of those moments of, I want to call it clarity, but just like no, there's no fear in like me using such a high lot size. I was just kind of so confident. I was like, I've seen this move before. Fundamentals make sense. Like everything makes sense. And I was just like, if I lose the trade, I lose the trade, whatever. But there's a strong potential I'm not going to lose it. So I kind of just went for the extra lots, and it ended up paying off. So yeah.
So how long did it take you to develop your strategy and actually be consistently profitable with it?
Oh man, I think it took well over a year and a half, 2 years. Because I think that there's like kind of tiers within trading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that once you get to like the top of one tier, right before you're going to get to the next tier, there's something weird that happens right before you get, like, let's say that last puzzle piece that puts it together that allows you to jump to the next tier. There's something weird that happens there. But I think that once you get it, it's really helpful in your shift to understanding a higher level of trading, a higher level of functioning. And I think that is something that you need to chase. So in other words, never being like complacent with where you're at in trading. I think there's always more to learn, even if it's more to learn about the same thing that you've been doing over time. Because even though you have one strategy, someone else can use that same strategy and look for even different subtleties within it. So, I mean, it really took a while of soul searching, I think, as well, because you also, like, your trading method, your trading approach has to also fit who you are. Like, if you're someone who doesn't like to micromanage things, you can't be a scalper, because what's the biggest thing that you have to do as a scalper? You have to manage your stop loss. Oh, there goes another 30 candle or another hour candle. Move my stop loss, or add a position, or hedge the other, like whatever it is. Like, you're always going to have to be doing a micromanaging task in some way. So I feel like your trading style has to agree with like who you are as a person, or I guess how you like to work would probably be a better way of saying it. So I think that the reason it took so long wasn't because of any difficulty with learning Forex itself. I think it was more the difficulty of also figuring out what it was that I like to do. Everyone figures that out at a different point in their life, whether it's when you're 20 or when you're 35. Like, everyone does it at a different point. So I think that is equally as important of a factor to figure out as it is to figure out how you want to trade, right? So I think that's part of the reason why for most people it takes upwards of 2 years, 3 years to become really proficient in I feel like maybe any task, really. I mean, yeah, Forex is different, but different and difficult in its own way. But I think like really any task is that you have to figure out how you fit into the domain of the task, and how you're going to kind of use your best self to get the best results out of what it is you're working with.
Yeah. And so was it a difficult process for you actually to become a profitable trader?
Yeah, I would say it was difficult. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think that Forex is a great thing. It gives you freedom. It allows you to capitalize on your knowledge. It opens up a lot of different opportunities. But it's honestly, for some people, just simply not the best way to make money, right? Like, it's kind of the only job where you get punished monetarily for making mistakes. And for some people, that's really detrimental. Like, imagine, again, back to like that analogy, like imagine a doctor who, like, every time they made a mistake in surgery, they like got fined an amount of money, or like got charged some conduct points or some ridiculous things like that.
Yeah.
It might make people like really weary of becoming doctors, because like, you know, they get treated badly, or they always have to pay when they make mistakes or something like that. So like, honestly, it's not the best way when you think about it on that type of scale of making money. Like, it's not really a surefire way of making money. It has a lot of stress. There's uncertainty. There's things that could happen that really mess you up. Like, for example, if in our current climate, you know, if Trump makes a weird tweet like that could inflate the market or deflate the market a sizable amount. But like, if you're just like working at a restaurant, no one's gonna hopefully like come by and like throw a grenade in there, you know, like they're not gonna just like make it really difficult for you all of a sudden to run your business. So
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's not the best way of making money, and it definitely is a difficult way of making money. So I feel like you have to be committed more to the other benefits of it outside of getting the money to, you know, even have the courage to continue doing it, because it's not a safe occupation, if that makes sense. Like, you know, like every day you have to show up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being like a professional athlete in, you know, in soccer and football, like whatever. When you're performing in like a tournament or at the highest level, you are always going to have people that are kind of rooting for you to fail or trying to take your number one status, right? So you have to like show up every single day and like be the best like that you could be, but also make sure that the best that you could be is better than everyone else. And that's like a really hard thing. Like there's really not too many jobs or professions that you have to do something quite as stressful. So yeah, I definitely said it. I would think I would describe it as difficult because of, you know, the different things that you got to grapple with, the different factors. And it really, you have to really take control of it, right? No one's gonna, you don't have a boss, you don't have a company or anything like that to shape your decision or your thinking. It's really kind of all up to you. And for some people that is like really uncomfortable and like not the best way of making money. So yeah, I would definitely say it's difficult.
Yeah, 100%. So when you were starting that journey of becoming a trader, was there anyone inside or outside of trading that you looked up to?
Inside and outside of trading. Let's see. I mean, yeah, yeah, definitely. There's different people in. So the reason I'm struggling so much to answer the question is because I feel like every domain has a certain type of personality that you could recognize. And it's like very similar. Like it's someone who's like kind of an all-star. They're like well respected. Sometimes they might have let's say controversial statements or something like that, but you could tell that they're always trying to be honest and trying to get at the root of an issue, or they're really just not trying to bullshit people. If that makes sense. And I feel like you see that everywhere. Like you see it in sports, you see it in banking, you see it in law, you see it in medicine, right? You see it kind of everywhere. And I think that instead of like naming one particular person or group of people, I feel like I look for those personalities within the domains that I'm interested in. Right. And I try to just like see what it is that they're doing, right? Because a lot of the time, like there's a reason why people become famous, why people become popular, why people achieve the success that they do. And so I feel like it's important to pay attention to them if that's what you're trying to be in your respective field, because they all have some, like, of course they don't have the same experiences or like the same upbringing or the same level of education, whatever. Like there's tons of different qualities throughout all those different people, but I think that you can narrow down certain ones that they all have, whether it's work ethic or routine or like anything like that. I feel like those are things that I like look out for and I try to emulate. So I feel like, so when I'm doing research about like banking in the US at least, and it names like different bankers or different institutions, I'll like look up those institutions and try to read more about, you know, how that person got there, how that institution grew so much or whatever. And you'll find that some of them were really sneaky and like maybe they used private equity to like a really weird advantage to like gain their wealth. That might not be someone that I personally want to emulate. I'm not saying there's anything wrong like with that. I'm just saying that like that's not how I'm trying to do things. So like I'll be aware of that and I'll be like, all right, maybe I don't want to pay attention to this person as much, or when I do pay attention to them, I keep in mind what they did to get that money or to get that respect or something like that. So I feel like instead of like looking up to someone, I kind of evaluate people based on what it is they stand for and how they got there. And I try to like use that as like I'll use the word confluence again, you know, how like what to take from them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like back to that example of if I know that like I'm trying to be a really good banker or like a really good like financial advice, like whatever it is, and I look at one banker and he like was really sneaky, he like broke a lot of laws or like used a lot of gray area laws and like sneaky back channels to like get his wealth. Like while I might respect him for his like economic view because he understands clearly how the economic like wheel functions, I might not respect as much like what he says about like moral business, like ethics. You know what I mean? So like I'll use kind of who they are as a person to see like what it is about what they're saying that might have more value or like less value, if that makes sense. I know that was kind of a
Yeah.
long answer.
Yeah, it's like
So
you're peeking behind the curtain, aren't you?
yeah. I never take anyone just at like their face value of what they're saying, because as we've seen, especially I think this year, that's a very dangerous thing to do. You always got to, so to speak, follow the money and figure out like what's kind of going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I like that answer
Yeah.
though. So what do you see in winning traders that you don't see in losing traders?
That I don't see in losing traders. So I don't see winning traders panicking. I don't see them taking a lot of trades. Excuse me. At least the ones that I know, and the ones that like I've come across in my learning experience, I see winning traders are very calm. They're always taking the same types of trades. They don't have 7 setups that they're looking for in the market. Because like, how do you even keep track of that? There's 20 something odd pairs or 30 something odd pairs. Like, how are you going to have 8 different trading setups that you could trade, and then also 30 pairs or whatever it is, and then like try to figure out the best one? Like, you're going to be running in circles trying to figure it out. So I feel like there's a underlying method, and there's also a drive that doesn't stop. So they keep going, and they don't stop until they figure out what it is they need to get right. And once they get it right, they continue to do that. And I feel like the other aspect is being calm and not having the stress, because the time is going to pass anyway. The wins and the losses are going to pass anyway. So, you might as well try to remove that stress piece and be as like free flowing as possible. I think a lot of losing traders, they try to ask why instead of understanding why, or trying to like see where they were wrong. They try to like maybe put their ego into the market and say, well, like, oh, this always happens to me, or I don't know. I think just good traders are calm. They don't rush into anything. There's no point to rush into anything. And I think that goes back to what I was saying before, that only comes with a certain level of experience and time in the market, right? If you're a new trader, it's so easy for you to get frustrated because you might take 2 trades on Monday and 2 trades on Tuesday, and you lose all 4 of them. And then next thing you know, the same trades that you took, if you had kept your stop loss and didn't close the trade early, like on Thursday, they went into profit, and like, you would have been up a good percentage or something like that. And those might be, small little things that people get really upset at. New traders and experienced traders, losing traders, where an easy fix is just patience and waiting. I think a lot of like prominent investors have said like you make more money when you just sit on your hands, when you just wait on that, one key setup or that one thing that will play out. Like, if GBP announces more really bad Brexit news, like, why would I be trying to like look every hour of every day to try to find a buy on GBP? Like, no, let me just wait for like the induction move or the false move or whatever it is that I'm looking for, and then just go pretty hard in on the sell, because it makes more sense. Like, sometimes the trade that you see playing out day to day right before you that you're missing out on isn't the real move. And so like losing traders might get so caught up on like, I should have been in the buy, or I should have been in the sell. Like, I knew I should have done that. Like, why didn't I? Instead of doing that, like, maybe focus on what the bigger picture is, because you might reveal that you're actually in a better place because you didn't trade. I think also winning traders have how would I describe it? Like an intuition, maybe, if that makes sense, where like even though they have like a specific set of rules and whatever that they go with, I feel like they know when to break them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So like something might not meet all your criteria, but you're like, oh, it still looks good. But you can't really say why, but it kind of just does. Do you know, does that make
yeah,
sense? Like, have you
yeah,
ever
yeah,
experienced that? Yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit of that too in winning traders. And I think that's something that comes with experience too. It's like, if you're doing like any sport, and you see someone do like some crazy play, whatever it is, typically it's because they've done it like a lot, just like messing around in practice or
mm,
something like that, and they were in the game situation. They kind of just didn't think about it, and they're like, oh, it seemed good, it felt right, and so they just did it, and they end up with like this like all-star play or whatever. I think it's something a little bit like that.
yeah, yeah. And what would you say makes you profitable?
What makes me profitable? I That's really a difficult question, honestly. um, I would say not taking wins or losses to heart is a big reason. So what I mean by that is if I place a trade on, all right, so I did my, weekly analysis, whatever. I have my zone set up. Monday comes along, I take a trade, I win 3,000. Tuesday comes along, I take another trade, I win 3,000. Wednesday comes along, I take another trade, I lose 2.5. Um, I didn't do anything differently across those days that made me win or lose. And I think that's an important thing for people to realize. Like,
Yeah,
you can't force anything to happen. All you can do is react. And so if something goes your way, you aren't any better because of it, and you didn't do anything better to make it go your way. If something does not go your way, you're not any worse for it, and you didn't do anything specifically for it to not go your way. Like, regardless of you entering that trade, whatever happened still would have happened. And I think it's important for people to realize that. And I think that once you realize that, then you'll be able to remove a lot of that fear that could block you from making progress, because literally, like, the market is always right. Like, you can never be right and the market wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that it just doesn't make sense. You can't say, well, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like, if the news was this, it should have done X, Y, Z or whatever. Like, yeah, you can say that and you can not understand why, but it doesn't mean the market's wrong. Like, the market is always doing what it's supposed to in search of equilibrium.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what advice would you give to someone who maybe struggles with discipline or patience when actually trading their plan?
Um, hmm. I would say in a case like that, examine your habits, maybe, and
Mm-hmm.
examine what things you do throughout the day. And if there's things that put you in a frustrating, and like an aggravated state, figure out how to fix it before you trade. And so what I mean is, like, you don't have to never be in that aggravated state ever again in your entire life. You just want to make sure you're not in that state while you're trading. So you need to figure out like what it is, and figure out how you can fix it. So maybe there's something within the issue that if you just resolve that issue, then you can continue that activity and it just won't put you in an aggravated state. That might be one option. Another option might be that no matter what you do, that activity is always going to bring you aggravation and you can't stop that activity for whatever reason. That's fine. But now you have to make sure that you have some routine that you do before you approach the charts that gets you out of that state and into one that's going to like be better for trading. Um, so whether it's like finding a song that puts you in a good mood and just listen to that song like a couple times, or an album, or maybe you need to go for a run or do some exercise, stretch out. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you look at yourself in the mirror and like talk to yourself and say like whatever. Like, it could literally be anything. Maybe you play video games and that calms you down a little bit. Like, find something to do that gets you out of a state that's not, you know, favorable to your trading, and get into one that is going to be a little more calm, a little more zen, so to speak. And I feel like that will help. And if it doesn't help your trading, maybe it helps you understand that trading is not going to be right for you. Because I think that's another factor too. If you're constantly frustrated and you're trying really hard not to be frustrated, maybe, and like you still can't solve it, it could be that trading is not for you, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Or it could just be that Forex isn't right for you. There's other ways of trading, investing your money that could remedy those situations, right? Like it could be just that the very nature of how Forex is just doesn't agree with you. Cool, go trade stocks or go trade futures. Like there's other stuff that you could trade, or just invest in companies, like become like an actual like IPO investor or something like that. Like there's other things that you can do to still grow your money or have your money work for you. I mean, you can do e-commerce. There's millions of things you can do to make money. So I feel like if a lot of times if you're looking at it from the perspective of just making money, that might bear its own frustration, because as we were talking about before, it's not the best way of making money. It's not a very secure and solid way of guaranteeing money every single day. Like some days you'll have it, some days you don't. So yeah, I feel like that, just, figure out a routine or just something to get you in a better mood. And I think that will probably improve your trading.
Yeah. So what does your average day look like? Do you have any routines that you do?
Yeah, so I do yoga every morning. So that's my way of being like fairly calm and like relaxed and like kind of awake. I think you feel very awake and attentive when you stretch out. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a full yoga like routine of progressions. Like you can maybe just like do a couple push-ups, maybe some jumping jacks, and like stretch your legs and stuff. That might be enough for you. That's cool. Like whatever works for you. But yeah, that's what I do. I do yoga, and then I read for a little bit, similar to how I was reading before we started here. So I'll do like some economist reading or just some general news, like see what's up in the world while I like drink coffee or whatever. And then I'll look at the charts, see what looks good. If I see like a very sharp aggressive move and there's a lot of volatility in the market, I'll probably just stay away, or maybe check back in a few hours and see like what the 4-hour candles did and see if they created any opportunities or if it was a fake out or something like that. But generally I'll stay away from that. If I see a lot of consolidation, then usually for me that's a good move, or presents a good opportunity one way or the other. And then once I'm like either, I shouldn't say done trading for the day, because I don't always just day trade. Like sometimes I do intraday. So if I'm in the trades that I want to be in for the day, I'll just call it a day, and I'll check the charts, every now and then if I'm not doing anything. But I'll go make food. I'll study. Like I said, I was studying for school. I'll study a bit, or I'll just read, play video games, like do stuff that normal people do. Like I'm not just on the charts 24/7.
Yeah.
Nor do I think that's particularly healthy, honestly, for your eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I feel like I just kind of get up, get moving, get my coffee, read a little bit, attack the charts, and then once I've had a successful day, or once I've finished my day, I'll try to study or some form of that, or maybe do a second workout. But I think that's it. I don't have like too strict of a routine.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get like, I feel like personally with having too strict a routine, if you miss something or like start it late and you're too strict about it, it can sometimes like ruin the purpose of it. Like the purpose of it is not to like be on time and start like a class. The purpose of it is to like feel good and like get the benefit of the activity. So
Yeah.
I try to like do the same things, but not necessarily the same time every day.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate you coming onto the podcast today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? And also, where can people find you?
Oh, where can people find me? I mean, I don't have like I have a social media, but I don't like put trades on it or anything like that. So I guess like Telegram would be best for trading stuff, because like no one's really gonna be able to like see my Instagram and know I'm a trader or anything. My Telegram is it's pips all day, one word, PIPSALLDAY. If anyone wants to like chat or like.
Okay, I'll put it in the description below.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you can tag my my Discord there as well. I guess it's just Mr. Smith and then the numbers. So I guess you could just tag that too. But I mean, I guess the last thing I'll say is just never give up. If you're really committed to becoming a trader and you really want to understand the economy and everything like that, everything you say and everything you say you believe, just go with it. Because the only way you're gonna definitely fail is by not trying. So like if you want to do it, go for it. I mean, anyone who's been persistent about it, I think has made it. And maybe you won't be able to make a living off of it. Maybe you won't be able to be a 10 grand a month trader, but that's cool. Like you can just be a 500 a month trader. Like if your goal is just to kind of get some enjoyment out of it and find another way to make your money work for you, go for it. I can't stress enough how important it is to understand how the economy works and how banks use your money, how investors use your money. Because if they're using that to make great fortunes for themselves, there's no reason why you can't do the same. So if it is something that you're really passionate about and that you want to do and you think you can take control of, just the one advice is always keep educating yourself, so always keep reading and just never give up. And I think that's a good place to be in.
Welcome to TradeHappy. Welcome back to another Traders Podcast episode. Thank you for all the support with the podcast. We know that you guys have really been enjoying the FTMO traders coming on and sharing their experience. We do have another one today. He's a FTMO funded trader. He was an ex-Marine, and he also shares some of those experiences and gives you guys some of the tips on routines and discipline that he's learned over the years. So please welcome Raheel. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Rohil Ali, and I got into trading about a year and a half ago, and prior to that, I was in the Marine Corps. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was kind of looking to see, where I want to go in life, and I tried many different businesses. I did social media marketing. I did drop shipping, everything you can name or look up online. I tried it, and then I ran across Forex, and I absolutely fell in love with it. There was just something about it that I loved. Just me and my computer and my own knowledge. I don't have to deal with clients. I don't have to deal with anyone else. It is just me and my mind. Um, that's something that really attracted me to trading, and ever since I just fell in love with it. And no matter the obstacles I had, I just kept pushing and pushing, and I think that passion kicks in, and that's what makes me so motivated to continue on this journey and and just enjoy what I do every single day to the fullest.
And you're an FTMO trader, if I'm right? Yeah, so when did you actually find out about FTMO? Like how long in your trading journey did that take?
Yeah, so originally I started out, trading my personal capital, and I kept going through that, normal trading cycle of, you invest your own money and then, you blow your accounts. That's just part of the journey, and you just got to trust the process. And I kept doing that and doing that. And, eventually I got to the point where I was growing my personal capital and, I became profitable. But then, I came across FTMO through a couple of my friends that are traders. I was able to kind of learn about FTMO, hear about FTMO. I did my own research. And then, just the fact that you can get funded, 25K to 100K capital, and, have multiple accounts with them, that was very eye-opening. And I kind of came to the realization that why am I trading my own capital and putting my own capital at risk when I can trade for a proprietary firm and I'm not at risk for anything, and that I can trade larger capital than I personally have. And, it can be life changing. That's how you can actually grow your personal capital, over time, and then eventually start trading your own personal capital. But yeah, I came across FTMO through some friends, and, I was like, I'm gonna give it a try, and it's been great ever since. It's definitely been life changing, and it's been an amazing experience.
And when did you have to change your strategy at all to fit with the FTMO challenge, or was it just kind of clean?
So the one thing I love about FTMO is they really don't care how you trade in your trading style, as long as you follow their trading objectives and you follow their rules, right? And that's one thing I love about FTMO is that they don't restrict your trading style, and you have the freedom to trade however you want, as long as you follow the rules that they give you, which is pretty much money management. All you have to make sure is like risk management, money management, very important. How much to risk, which is obviously one of the most important parts about trading. If you're not using risk management, you're not going to be a profitable trader, right? But as long as you follow that, you can trade however you want and whatever your trading style is. And I haven't had to change anything in my trading style. Um, the only thing that I made sure I was following was risk management that I always follow, and with that, I've been successful with FTMO, and I think that's like the number one key to being successful as an FTMO trader is risk management.
Can you briefly describe your trading strategy?
Yeah, so my trading strategy is confluence. So over time, I use like trend lines, I use Fibonacci, retracements, support and resistance, and supply and demand. And over time, I went through like the basics of trading, and I learned all these different strategies, tools, and then eventually I kind of created my own confluence, which is using multiple different things to align in order for me to enter a position or a trade, right? So, for example, I have 2 to 3 confirmations before I enter any trade. I don't enter off of one confirmation, like, for example, a touch of trend line. I will not enter simply off of that. I have to have at least 2 confirmations before I enter any trade, such as a Fibonacci retracement with trend line, or a support and resistance break and retest. So with that confluence strategy, I have multiple confirmations before entering a trade. And that gives me confidence in my own trading ability and that position. So that's where my psychology is strong, is because I'm confident that, I have multiple confirmations of why I am in this trade. So over time, I kind of, customize my own strategy. And I think that's important for every trader. Like, I know a lot of traders go out and buy courses and, learn from, Forex gurus or, academies. And eventually you learn. And that's something I did. That was my journey. I invested in courses, knowledge, and taught myself all these different, strategies. And eventually I came to the understanding is that it's how I see the market, because someone else will see the market different than I see the market. So over time, I customize my own strategy on how I see the market and what works for me. And that's how I really became successful and excelled in trading.
Yeah. How long did it actually take you to develop your strategy to where you were confident and where you are right now?
I would definitely say I would say about a year in, or 8 months to a year in, is where I you know I think I hit my breakthrough in my profit profitability. Before that, it was like on and off. I was struggling because I was trying new things. I was kind of experimenting with my strategy, trying to find what works for me. And around 8 months to a year is where my profitability and consistency started kicking in, and I started doing really well. And then I've stuck with that ever since. And it feels good to finally accomplish that, because trading is definitely a roller coaster. Sometimes you think you got it, you're there, and then the markets hit you hard, and you have to adjust. You have to get back up, and then you have to figure out what you're doing wrong, and you have to keep pushing forward. And yeah, there's no better feeling than finally seeing my losses, my failures show me what I need to do in order to succeed in the markets. And it's absolutely a great feeling. getting there.
Yeah. And was it a difficult process for you to actually become a profitable trader?
It was a difficult process, and a lot of people ask me how I was able to gain profitability so fast because sometimes it does take 2 years. It takes a long time to gain profitability in the market, but for me, like I told you, I had a passion for it. I grew my passion for trading. And, every single day for hours and hours and hours, I wouldn't be going out. I wouldn't be hanging out with my friends. I would be home and I would be on the charts back testing. I would be, learning more, learning more and learning more. And for hours and hours and hours, and I would barely get any sleep. It's just because I was so motivated to become a profitable trader, and I knew that's what I wanted, and nothing was going to stop me, and nothing else mattered until I accomplished that. And I think it was a very difficult journey because I would lose a lot of money in the beginning because I would keep funding my account. I kept going and going and going, and then I fell on my face and I got back up. I fell on my face and got back up, and there was times that I had a good month, and I thought, okay, I'm there, I made it, and then the next month the market would slam me. And it's trading is just a very difficult journey. If you don't want it bad enough and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you won't be able to push through to your breakthrough. And that's something I can say confidently. um, but because of that, putting in all those hours every single day and not taking a break is what really helped me get through that barrier of the difficulty of trading, because trading is very, very difficult. Um, but as long as you work hard and you put the hours in, you can push through those obstacles and barriers and achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to any traders that maybe are starting a journey or possibly looking to do FTMO?
Yeah, so if you're, looking to go down the trading journey, I think it's very important to understand that, success is not going to happen overnight. And everyone's journey is different. There are some people that, might pick it up in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you shouldn't compare yourself to anybody else. And that's something I caught myself doing. Was I was comparing myself to all these gurus, like, oh, I can get there too, and they did it in this time, they did it in this time, but in reality, it's about your own journey and your own hard work and when you're going to get there. So I would say that my biggest advice is focusing on your own journey, staying in your own lane, and focusing on your own progress. um, and then definitely learn. A lot of people just want to jump in and start making money. And the number one advice I have is take your time and learn, back test, put in the hours, before you go and, lose money in the markets. And that's very important because that can really destroy your psychology. And, working on your psychology, because my opinion is trading is like 80 to 90% psychology and like 10 to 20% skill. So I would definitely focus on psychology and then obviously risk management. Those are the two most important parts of trading, in my opinion. And if you don't have those two things, you cannot be a profitable trader in the market. And then for going down the route for FTMO, I think, the one thing I like about FTMO is when you are taking their challenge and verification to get funded, um, it's definitely a good process because you're not trading your own capital and losing your own money and hurting yourself financially. You're going through their challenge and verification, which is gonna let you know that, hey, you can trade. You are following the rules. You are successful in the challenge and verification, and will really show you where your progress is. And they give you an analysis of your trading, even if you don't pass, right, and you don't get funded. They tell you your performance. They give you a whole review, and you can really look at that and work on what you need to work on with those analytics, right? And um, I would just, for like any advice with FTMO, I would just say focus on the trades and not hitting those 10% targets, because that will really mess with your head. I think if you focus on your trades and your positions instead of looking at the numbers, and if you're to your goal yet, you will get there without even noticing it. Like, you'll hit your 10% target, you'll hit your 5% target in verification. But I think that's definitely a key component. And 100% recommend FTMO because, you're not going to have the same emotional attachment to as you do to your personal capital. And that's huge because obviously if you're not making six figures already and you're depositing like $1,000, $2,000, and that's most likely going to be hitting you financially, you're going to be really attached to that money and you're going to be very emotional, and you have to be emotionless while trading. But with FTMO it's different because it's not your own capital and you don't have that personal attachment to that capital, right? So it takes away that aspect, which is huge. And you know that's just going to be a better experience for a new trader, or someone who has a little bit of experience, or even experienced traders. You're just going to get that detachment from that capital, and that's huge for your trading.
Yeah, and you touched on like the difference between trading your own capital and trading their capital. Do you think that if you're a losing trader on a small account but it's your own money, once you go to FTMO and get the larger amount of capital, you can be profitable?
Not necessarily. There's different aspects that go into that. Just because if you're not able to be profitable on a small account, then you're most likely not going to be able to be profitable on an FTMO account. But there's different variables to that, right? Because if you're over leveraging on a small account, trying to make a lot of money so you can grow that account quickly, that could be a reason why you're losing and not profitable on that account, is because you keep blowing it because you're over leveraging, right? Like if you walk into a hedge fund and interview to be a trader there, if you tell them you risk anywhere above 3%, they're just gonna laugh in your face, right? Because every professional trader is risking 1 to 3%, but a lot of traders trading on like a $500, $1,000 account are risking like 5 to 10%, and they might win 2, 3 trades and then lose their next 2 or 3, and they'll blow their account because they keep upping their lot size and they're trading like 1, 2, 3 lots on a $1,000, $2,000 account, and that's definitely not what you should be doing. And yeah, but if you can, if that is the reason, and you go to FTMO and you're not over leveraging and you're actually using 1 to 3% risk management, and you're winning at least 50 to 51% of your trades, you can definitely pass, right? But like on a small account, if you're losing 50% of your trades, you're over leveraging, your account's gone, right? So it depends on the trader and what they're doing wrong. But I definitely think going down the FTMO route, it's going to hold you to certain rules, and it's going to give you boundaries, right, that you wouldn't have on your personal account, because, stuff like revenge trading, fear of the market, trying to make your money back after your losses. You can definitely easily do that on your personal account because there's no one telling you, oh, you have this loss limit, your daily max loss, or your overall max loss, right? You're held to rules, and it's going to keep you disciplined and force you to be disciplined, right? Versus on your personal account, you lose $500, you're like, I want to make that back right now. So you go enter on USDJPY, and then you lose another $500, right? Because you over leverage trying to make that 500 back, and you pretty much blown your account there. So I've seen it all. I've been through it all, and it's just I wish I knew about FTMO when I first started trading, but I went through the journey, and it's just taught me a lot. Even trading my own personal capital, and anyone that asks me about trading, I always guide them to FTMO and tell them not to, deposit $500, $1,000, $2,000. I truly believe with trading, it's best to have. Trading is a business at the end of the day, right? And for any business, you need like $25,000 to invest, right? Before you start a business, you're not just going to start a business with $500 to $1,000, right? Depending on obviously what business you're starting. But that's what I always tell people. Trading is a business. It's not like, a get rich quick scheme. It's like you will not make a lot of money overnight or in a week or in 2 weeks, right? It's a business you're investing in. You're going to have to get through these obstacles. You're going to have to find out how to make your business profitable. And that will take time. And you really need to have that large sum of capital to see the profits you want to see, right? Because people want to see $1,000, $2,000 profits, or even $500, $600, $700 profits a day. But that's just not realistic on a $500 account. You need to have that 25K, 50K capital to see the profits you want to see. And if you're not seeing the profits you want to see, you're just going to make bad decisions on a smaller account. And, it's not going to be good for you, your trading psychology, or, you're not going to be in trading for the long term. And, if you want to be in trading for the long term, you got to be a professional. You got to use risk management. Because if you're not using risk management, it's going to be the death of you as a trader.
Yeah. And what do you think you did well during your FTMO challenge?
During my FTMO challenge, something I did well was I used risk management, right? And I know I keep saying risk management is very important because it really, really is because if you're using risk management, even if you win 50 to 51% of your trades, like I told you earlier, you can still be a profitable trader, right? You don't have to have an 80%, 70%, 90% win rate to be a profitable trader. And using risk management, your wins will always outweigh your losses, right? So even if you have losses, they are less than your wins, right? So you're going to remain profitable. And for the FTMO challenge, I was using 2%, 1.5 to 2% risk. And I think that was a good risk percentage to take, just knowing you have to hit 10% target in 30 days, versus on 1% risk or less, you have to take a lot of trades in order to achieve that. Versus, I was just taking quality trades within the 30 days. I wasn't trading every single day. I was doing 1.5 to 2% risk, taking quality trades with 2 to 3 confirmations. And I think within, I would say about 3 to 5 trades of just quality trades, you can definitely hit that 10% target. And I think a lot of people going into that challenge, seeing that 10% target, think you have to take so many trades within 30 days, when in reality, you only have to take a couple of trades, quality trades, in order to hit your target. It obviously depends on your trading style, if you're a scalper, or if you're an intraday trader, or if you're a swing trader, right? It all depends on that as well. But yeah, one thing that I think I did do well on that challenge and verification phase was I used risk management. I stayed disciplined, took quality trades, and I made sure I had multiple confirmations with my confluence before I entered any trades. I didn't overtrade. I didn't, you know, I kept my psychology strong through that whole process.
Yeah, so coming from a military background, what advice would you give to someone who struggles with the discipline or the patience when trading?
Um, you know, Even though I was in the military prior to this, I did go through that discipline, and I was taught discipline. You know, I, I was a Marine, so like you have to go through a lot of difficult training. You have to go through hell pretty much in order to become a Marine. And even though I went through all of that, one thing I can say about trading is it is just different. Like no matter how disciplined you are, you really have to change yourself to become a trader. It's another type of discipline. Greed kicks in a lot. You're dealing directly with money, right? And when greed kicks in, it kicks in any human being. I don't think I've met anyone where as a trader that they didn't go through that greed phase, or greed still gets to traders that I know that are very, very successful traders, right? It still hits them, right? So I think trading is a whole nother beast no matter what military training you have. Obviously, there might be some people who naturally have that emotionless, um, you know, control over their emotions. But for me, I would say, even though I went through that discipline and that training through the Marine Corps, I still had a difficult time with discipline trading because it's just a different type of discipline. It's not like, making sure um, not making sure your bed's made, your room's clean, none of that stuff, right? Or, going through training and being in an exercise and making sure you're alert. Trading is dealing with money, and money can get the best of you, right? So I think that when you're becoming a trader, it's a different type of discipline you have to gain in the markets. And, you have to go through that process, and you have to learn from your mistakes in order to get that discipline. You have to learn from your failures. And I think that's just the process of trading. But I definitely do think one thing that helped me through my military training was to never give up and, push through the obstacles and go head on with the challenge. I think that's one thing that my military training taught me, because I know, a lot of people that jump into trading and after, 6 months of just not being profitable and losing, they quit, right? And one thing that really helped me push through was um, just knowing that I can't quit and I have to keep pushing and I have to keep learning and I have to get back up when I fall on my face. And that's something the Marine Corps taught me, is that I can accomplish and overcome any obstacle that comes my way. Um, and I think out of all my military training, that was what helped me become a profitable trader. That's what really helped me break through to where I am now. And, again, just trading is a whole nother discipline and that's my personal opinion. I think it's just a whole nother discipline you have to go through when you're dealing directly with money. Um, it's like nothing I've faced before. And it was a very difficult journey, but it's made me a stronger person going through
Yeah,
that.
I think that being a trader is very much like the athlete. Like you have to
Hmm.
work on your psychology and everything like that much more than people imagine.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess kind of leading on from what you just touched on, do you have a routine, or do you have any advice for someone that wants to build a routine that can help them with FTMO?
Yeah, so my routine, along with my trading, because my routine, sets me up for my trading every single day, is that I wake up and, I work out. That's the first thing I do. I get my mind active. And then after I work out, I don't look at the charts. This is after I gain profitability, not when I was, studying and trying to figure out what I need to do in order to become a profitable trader. That's when I would study for hours whenever I had time. But once I did become a FTMO trader and I did become a profitable trader, I would wake up, I will work out, and then I will go have breakfast, and then I will go get all the other things that I need to get done that day. And I will not look at the charts. I will not look at trading. I won't think about trading. And, I will continue on my day, get everything I need to get done. And then I come home and then I, start my markups for that night for London session and New York session. And then I wait, I do my markups and then I wait for those setups to happen. And I enter those trades, go to sleep, I wake up for New York and I do the same thing over again. And then I get up the next day. But on the weekends, I stay away from the charts. I relax. I reset my psychology. I reset my mind. If I had a bad week or if I had a good week, I don't let myself get overconfident and I don't get too down on myself. I completely reset, relax, um, and just make sure that I'm ready for that next week, going in strong, whether I had a good week or a bad week. Because again, if you get too overconfident in the markets, you're gonna destroy yourself, and if you get too down on yourself, that's not gonna do you any good either. So I just make sure that I'm, meditating. I use an app called Headspace to make sure that my mind is clear and I'm not too stressed out, because at the end of the day, the most powerful tool a trader has is their mind. So meditation is important. I think fitness is very important because again, it also teaches you discipline, right? So when I work out, I have a routine, and then when I trade, I have a routine. I have a trading plan. I follow a set of rules, right? And working out also, you know, gives you that structure, and it keeps you active and it keeps your mind active, right? Staying healthy is very important as well, not just sitting behind your computer all day. Because as a trader, you're sitting behind your computer for hours and hours. Um, Sometimes it depends on the day and how much you're trading and what strategy you're using. But I think working out is very important, meditating is very important, and just making sure your mind is clear and you're relaxed, and not stressing yourself out too much and not getting overconfident. So I think as long as you can fit things in your routine that help you meditate, help you relax, and also keep you active, that's very, very important. So that you don't get lazy, you don't become a couch potato, none of that, because that's definitely not going to help you as a trader, right? Um, Definitely, I read books as well. That's something that I do, personal development. Um, and I just make sure that I'm not looking at the charts a lot. I only look at the charts every day at a certain time before London. I do my markups and I wait for my setups. If they don't happen, I don't trade. I get up the next day and I start my routine over again. And then the weekends, I just have to kind of relax, reset, and make sure I go into that next week strong, and then execute on my trades and my trading plan.
Yeah, and from all of your success in trading and everything else that you've done, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Like, do you have any plans or goals that you're aiming for?
With my trading, I do eventually want to pursue opening my own academy, and I do want to, help others learn the skill and the skill set, and that's something I
Mm.
definitely want to pursue. Um, I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, I do want to have an academy, and I also do have aspirations of having my own trading floor one day, and managing capital. So yeah, so that's definitely where I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years, and I do want to pursue real estate and other businesses.
Are you doing drop shipping at all? Are you still doing any of that?
No, so I went down the drop shipping route, but that just got very saturated, that market as a whole.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, I hated dealing with fulfilling orders and then having to deal with customer service emails. It seemed like I was putting in a lot of work, and I think it was just a very saturated market. I think the thing I loved about trading was that it was just me and my computer and my mind, and there's no cap to your income. I mean, I completely control my income, and that's something that was really attractive to me. I don't think there's anything else in the world where any other route I could take that I could get from what I can get from trading, right? It's just a completely
Mm.
different route to go than anything else. And I just really love that because it was something that I controlled, and that's something that I had to make sure my mind was powerful, and that was something that was really cool for me. There was just something about trading that made me say this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It's just something about it that was really attractive to me, and yeah, I just really gained a passion for it. No matter whether I was falling on my face or not, I was excited the next day to go learn more, figure out what I did wrong. And I think that's something cool to find, right? Because some people never
Yeah.
find that, right? So that was something really cool that I was able to find what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I was excited to do it. And it gives you financial freedom, right? And it gives you the opportunity to do things you wouldn't be able to do at a 9 to 5, right? It
Mm.
gives you a lot of doorways to a different lifestyle, and freedom that you wouldn't really get anywhere else, right? Because with most
Yeah.
businesses, you're still constantly, you know, managing things, versus trading is you have a certain time you trade. And honestly, like when you have your 30, 40K or even 20K months, you don't have to trade every day. You don't have to trade every day, and you can take 1 week off and you can trade the following week. That's one thing I love about trading is you don't have to constantly be trading. And even trading a couple times a week or even a couple times in 2 weeks, you can still make that money you need to make to live a good lifestyle. And I think that's something very, very special that you can't really find in other places.
I 100% agree with trading is one of the few things out there where you can make quite a lot of money but not really work many hours.
Exactly.
Especially if your strategy is something where it only takes you, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes to do, and you have enough capital, you can make a lot of money
Exactly.
in not very much time. So, is there anyone inside or outside of trading that you look up to?
Um, I would definitely, in trading, I definitely think someone that inspired me was Q Banks. I remember when I was first getting into trading. Have you heard of Q Banks?
No.
Okay, yeah. So he started Forever and Profit, and I when I first got into trading, he was the first trader I saw that really was living the lifestyle that I wanted. And that was the first academy I joined, and that's how I really got the foundation of my trading. And he really inspired me to pursue trading and work hard through the obstacles. Seeing where he came from in his journey, from working at Target part time to becoming a full time trader, and living the lifestyle he wants to live. Um, so that's someone I really looked up to, definitely starting out on my trading journey and
Hmm.
to this day. And I think he really inspired me to keep pushing and know that I can reach that. I can reach my goals and my dreams with trading. It just takes time and hard work. And then, outside of that, I would say just within my own family, my brother, I kind of followed in his footsteps, joining the Marine Corps. And, you know, I saw him become very successful in the corporate world, right? And he got to live the lifestyle he wanted to live. And he was very successful and very motivated person. And, I wanted to accomplish that as well. I wanted to be successful when I saw him become successful, and it just really motivated me that I can accomplish that too, seeing someone that I really look up to. And being my own blood, I will accomplish something so great. And I just really wanted to go out and do that with my own style, with what I want to pursue, and just become very successful and accomplish my goals and dreams. Yeah. And I think he was a very important role model in my life. And I think that's how I really became a motivated person. And I have to give that to him. Um, just, yeah, I think he was probably the biggest impact on my journey throughout my whole life, whether it was the military or now even trading. He just motivated me to become the best version of myself and become successful since I was a kid. So,
Did you know about him before you started trading, or was that something that you had to research into?
so originally I came across his page when I started looking into Forex. I was on Instagram, and then, I was looking up people who trade, right? And then this was like the first month that I even knew about Forex. I got into it. I went on his page, and I looked at his profile and everything like that, and I was just astonished at what trading can do for you. And that was
Hmm.
within like the first month of my trading, so it was about a year and a half ago. And ever since then, I never stopped trading. So I've known about him for about a year and 6 months.
We kind of deviated a little bit there.
Yeah.
Just to kind of pull it back, what would you say makes you a profitable trader?
I would definitely say that what makes me a profitable trader is risk management. Because at the end of the day, risk management is how you are going to be profitable. Because if you don't know how to manage your risk, no matter how many trades you win or lose, you're
Hmm.
not going to come out profitable. And I think that's a key component that's black and white. I don't think there's any wiggle room around that. You need to know risk management. You need to manage your money properly, just like any hedge fund would or any institutional bank would, right? So I think that's a key component that really took me from not being profitable to being profitable. And then, obviously, figuring out how I see the market and what works for me, and not trying to, follow Q Bank's strategy to the T, because he sees
Hmm.
the market different than I do, right? I did learn, most of my strategy from him, but then again, I incorporated how I see the market, and what makes sense to me. And that's what really pushed me through my breakthrough, along with risk management. And that's how I really gained profitability, is understanding I see the market different than anyone else. So if anyone else was to send me a markup of their chart and it went against mine, that doesn't mean that I should, change my markup and go with what they're doing. It's how I see the market. And the only way I'm going to become profitable is, taking my own markups and how I see the market and adjusting if I win or lose to that, right? Instead of
Hmm.
letting others' opinions of the market affect me. And I used to let that happen a lot, when I was in these, chat groups, trading rooms, so on and so forth. I would let other people's markups affect my own decision making in the market. And when I came to the realization that once I follow my own markups and I learn from my losses and I learn from my mistakes and I fix my strategy and my knowledge of the market, that's when I will actually become self-sufficient and profitable in the market. And then obviously managing risk, right? It's just, I can't stress how important that was in my trading journey. As soon as I was able to do that and understand risk management to the T, I was able to really gain that profitability.
And what's some non-conventional advice that you would give to a trader that wants to succeed?
I would say advice that I wish I had when, I was going down my trading journey that, many people you learn from don't talk about. And again, it's going to come back to, not comparing yourself to other people and seeing people who are already profitable and their profits. Don't let that affect you and don't feel like you need to be there already, because I can promise you they were at where you are at currently. They went through the struggle. They went through like, oh, how am I going to make it as a trader? And that doubt you have when you're going through this journey, it is normal and it is okay to feel that way. You just need to understand that, you know, eventually you will get there. Even if you can't see the light in the tunnel, you can't see the other side of that tunnel, you're gonna get there. And it's just gonna happen, 1 month or in like some week throughout the year where it's gonna hit you and you're gonna start understanding things over time, right? And eventually you're gonna get to the place and you're like, wow, like I'm finally there, right? And throughout my journey, I always had doubt. I was like, am I like, will I even be able to accomplish it? And I had that self doubt because no one talked about their struggles and them going through that journey and facing obstacles, falling on their face, right? And that was something I always wondered when I looked at other traders making profits. I was like, you know, did they go through the same issues I was going through? Did they have the same type of self doubt? Like, did they not see the light at the end of the tunnel? So on and so forth, right? And I think my biggest advice is don't compare yourself to other people. Don't rush the process. Take your time and learn the process, and eventually you're going to get there. And that's one thing, a mistake I made was I would rush the process. I was like, I need to make this as fast. And I was trying to prove myself, and that was only holding me back. That was only delaying the process for me, was because, I was rushing. And you just need to trust the process. You need to keep pushing. You need to stay disciplined in learning and learning your craft, working on your craft on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's the best advice outside of the technicals and, the normal rules that every trader should have is don't compare yourself to others, and just understand that whatever you're going through in your journey, other traders are also going through and have been through, right? They didn't just immediately become profitable. And that's one thing that will destroy you as a trader is self-doubt, and it will really hurt your psychology. But yeah, to all the new traders or anyone going through this journey, don't give up and understand that you will eventually get there. It will only take time, right? Eventually you will get there when you put in the work, and it is not impossible, and you will accomplish what you need to accomplish one day.
Very nice. And is there anything else that you would like to say? And also, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I don't really have much more to say. I think we covered a lot of topics. But if you guys want to find me, my Instagram @ is Rohail ROHAIL_FX. So you can definitely reach out to me on there if you have any questions or you just want to connect. And I also have a trading room where I do send out my trades, and the link is in my bio if you guys would like to